Welcome to Gambling with an Edge. And now, here are Bob and Richard.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Gambling with an Edge. I'm Bob Dancer.
And I'm Richard Munchkin.
Our guest today goes by the handle of Consultant AP. He's worked in surveillance. He's worked on various kind of AP moves, and now he consults with other APs. So, Consultant AP, welcome to Gambling with an Edge.
Appreciate it, guys. Always been a dream of mine to be on the show, so I appreciate you guys having me.
Well, you're very welcome. Your career started in surveillance. How long did that happen, and what cities did you do it in?
Correct. Yeah, I was in the surveillance industry for over 15 years here in Las Vegas, Nevada. Worked for numerous casinos, some small off the strip, and then some big on the strip.
How did you get into that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So I originally moved out here to be a professional poker player. And after about 6 months, I hated it and was going to move back to where I'm from. And I happened to make a connection with someone who was a surveillance director at the time here in Las Vegas. And he was working at a small local casino. And he asked me to come work for him as a trainee, and that he would train me in surveillance, and that also I'd have an opportunity to see the whole operation of the casino, and maybe I would find some avenue or some path in the casino that I wanted to pursue.
And so when you got in, you started working in surveillance, were you aware of advantage play already? I mean, because you knew about winning at poker, or was that something that came up, and what did you think once you started seeing, card counters or whatever?
Yeah, I knew nothing about advantage play when I first got into surveillance. I mean, the only advantage, if you consider it advantage play, the only advantage play I knew was poker. I knew the math of poker, but I knew nothing about table games or slots or any other aspect of the casino for that matter. So surveillance was my first exposure to card counters and advantage play.
Surely you'd heard about card counting, at least heard of it.
Honestly, I had not.
Really?
Yeah, I had not. At the time, I had become friends with a really sharp poker player, but I had not. It turns out that he was a card counter at the time, and he ended up advancing his career well beyond card counting. However, I did not, at that time we had not spoken about card counting in the first 6 months I had been out here. So I knew, I came from far away. I'll say I was probably pretty naive when I moved here. So I came from a real small town, suburb type town. So I was new to the big city, and I was very, naive or oblivious to a lot of stuff. I mean, when I was in college, all I focused on was online poker, and I was super successful playing online poker. And I mean, that was my focus at the time. So I knew nothing about card counting.
And so
Go
when
ahead.
you started working in surveillance and the guy told you about it, what did you think?
Well, I actually first learned about card counting from the surveillance people that I was being trained by. I guess I got lucky. My supervisor was a career surveillance guy, and he actually had done some card counting himself in the past with card counting teams and stuff like that. And so he was the one who trained me. So that's actually how I learned about card counting. I ended up relinking, I kind of lost contact with my poker contact when I went into the casinos because I wasn't seeing him every day playing poker with him anymore. I kind of lost contact with him. And then we reconnected, a couple years down the road. And that's when I found out, at that time, like I said, he was just a card counter at that time. And then his career evolved into a lot more than just a card counter.
So what did you learn from working in surveillance that helped you into becoming an AP?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. And obviously, we could probably do like a whole show just on that. I mean, there's so many things, right? But I think some of the biggest things are like the AP's perception of like what the casino or what surveillance is doing as opposed to what is really happening. I think that was probably like the biggest thing I learned. And
so can you give an example of that?
Right. Yeah. I guess like, to me, I feel like this is so simple, but, yet so many people have told me this is valuable. So, but like, so for instance, like a lot of advantage players are really big on like wanting to hide their identity, whether that be their name or what they look like or stuff like that. So some advantage players go to extremes of like disguising themselves. And to me, that's actually not advantageous. And the reason I say that is because you're actually drawing more heat to yourself by doing that. So, for example, if you're sitting in high limit playing blackjack and you have an obvious wig on and sunglasses and a ball cap and all this, you're actually standing out more than if you just went in there, and tried to blend in with like what a quote unquote normal customer looks like in that establishment.
Now, at some point, you decided, I want to try this for myself. How did that come about?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like, it wasn't some epiphany or anything like that where one day I just, quit surveillance and tried it for myself. It just kind of happened over time. I dabbled in it. I dabbled in some advantage play throughout my surveillance career. And, like I started out like as a card counter, right? I mean, everyone's done some card counting. So, so I started out as a really low level card counter. That didn't really do it for me per se, financially or my drive. It didn't do it for me to do that professionally. But the big thing that ended up getting me out of the casinos in going to advantage play full time was when I got introduced into sports betting. Sports betting, I love sports. I love to bet on sports. I used to bet on sports as a ploppy or a non-advantage player. So it was already like a passion of mine. And once I got connected with the right person or it's really a group of people who beat sports for a living. And once I realized you could beat sports for a living, I started going hardcore into it, putting in crazy hours, and I was seeing the results as well. And so it was just like a no-brainer for me.
So basically, are you betting someone else's picks? Is that where you get your edge?
I mean, easy answer would be yes. However, I do a lot of stuff on my own as well. Not as far as handicapping a particular match per se, but I study I have the Don's Best Sports screen in front of me, and I have the lines of every casino in Vegas and then every offshore book in the world, and so I study the market, and sometimes I see opportunities in the market where a particular casino or book or sports book may have a number that doesn't represent what the current market has.
Sure.
What kind of interesting stories have happened to you in sports books?
Again, that could probably be a show in itself.
Assume it's an 8-minute show, and you can take the whole show.
Yeah, I have a lot. I think I'll tell one of my personal favorite ones, and then maybe tell another one. But so one of my personal favorite ones, I don't believe the amount of the wager matters per se, but I'll add that in there. So it was, and show listeners don't beat me down here if I'm wrong on the date here or whatnot, but it was the Kansas City Chiefs playing the New England Patriots, and I believe it was 2 seasons ago. So it was not last year's playoffs. It was the year before playoffs, and the sharp bettors had come with New England +3 was the play. And my group, we don't do a lot of betting on the NFL. When we do, it's generally totals on games or proposition bets as far as players' yardage and that whatnot. However, when I looked at the screen, every casino in the world had 3, or every book in the world had 3, except there was a particular casino here in Las Vegas who had 3.5. And as sports bettors will know, that's a huge number, especially in the NFL, well, college as well, but NFL, 3 is the key number for a side. So anyways, I went to this particular book and I bet 90. I risked, obviously it's not all my money, but I risked $9,900 to win $9,000 on the New England Patriots +3.5. The reason I wagered $9,900, which I didn't think this through, however, in case I won the bet, which I did, the reason I wagered $9,900 is because I wouldn't have to show ID. However, this is where the interesting part of the story comes up. So, the long story short, the bet ended up winning, and I go to cash out the ticket. Well, now I have to, so it pays out, $18,900. So I obviously have to provide ID. Well, I had just renewed my driver's license. So they put the little holes in my driver's license, and they'd given me a paper copy of my temporary license until my new one came in the mail. So I provided that to the sports book. I also provided them other, credit cards, whatever. I mean, I was showing it to them, with my name in it. They refused to cash my ticket at the time. They refused to cash my ticket, and they said the reason why was that I did not have my paper ID was not a valid ID. However, ironically enough, on the paper ID itself, and you guys can confirm this, anyone who's ever had a paper ID, it actually says on it that it is an official ID document. They said it was not an official document, and actually on the piece of paper it says it is an official document. So anyways, their stance was that they were not going to cash the ticket. So I advised them I was going to call the gaming control board. I'm sure they hear that all the time. So they basically just rolled their eyes and said, yeah, okay, whatever. So another part of this story was it was about 1 or 2 a.m. when I'm trying to cash the ticket now, too, by the way. It was like a 24-hour type sports book. So I'm the only person, the reason why that matters is I'm the only person in the sports book now, right? So I hop on my phone and I call the Nevada Gaming Control Board. And now the sportsbook manager who denied cashing me out, he's piqued an interest in my conversation with gaming. And he realizes I'm not bluffing, that I'm actually really am calling gaming. And I see him out of the corner of my eye hop on the phone, and he's frantically making phone calls now because he realizes oh shit, this guy's not bluffing. And the gaming agent was going to respond to the particular casino I was at and advise them they were going to have to cash out my ticket and all that. But as that process was going on, amazingly enough, the sportsbook manager started, frantically waving me up to the counter, wanting to speak to me. And so I went up to the counter, and amazingly, they wanted to cash my ticket at that point. So the gaming agent and I got a good laugh about it, and the gaming agent said if I had any other problems with cashing the ticket out, to please call him back, and he would be there immediately. So, and the reason why I share that story is, it lines up with advantage play, right? Where like a lot of times casinos they're bluffing is what they're doing. They're trying to see how you're going to react to a situation, right? A lot of floppies there would have just probably walked out and whatever, and maybe came back later or whatnot, and for me that's not going to be the case. So
have you had any Barrings in Las Vegas, backoffs, 86s?
Not any official 86s, meaning like where I'm trespassed from their property. I have had Barrings at sports books. Two major sports books in Las Vegas have banned my action. One, ironically enough, it was literally, so like at the time I believe I had like 8 Las Vegas accounts, and it was college basketball season, which sports bettors will know, like college basketball is one of the higher edge opportunities that you potentially can have. And it just happened to be that at this particular sports book, I was winning, like I was losing at all the other 7 at the time. Like it was a really bad beat for the casino, really, the individual casino, because I was losing I was probably winning at the time at about a 60% clip, and I was losing at the other 7 casinos. But like I was winning every single bet at this 8th casino, and to them it probably just looked like, and I'm betting like 1,000 a game. So to them it probably just looked like I was like straight cheating or something. I mean, so, and obviously they see the lines moving in my favor as well, but they just at some point they just couldn't handle the action anymore. I think they're pretty good in general of taking sharp action. However, when someone's just running like that and the action happens to be sharp, they just they weren't able to continue to do business with me. So to this day, I'm still banned with them. And then, I mean, I won't name any names, but there's another sports book here in town who's also a worldwide sports book. So I'm sure most people can probably figure out which one that is. That everybody in the sports world knows, they're not tolerant to sharp action. And I wouldn't call it a case, but I currently have a interesting debate conversation going on with that particular sports book about reinstating me. Actually, that's currently ongoing. I just spoke a couple hours ago to a VP from the organization he claims he wants to have me reinstated, and he's doing everything he can to have me reinstated. However, I'm not holding my breath on that one.
Well, you'll be able to bet $100 a game, and that's pretty good.
Right. And with that particular sports book, because they are so slow to move their lines, I've had probably up to like 8 to 10 friends create accounts, and I'll nickel and dime them. I will bet like 100 or 200 at them, just because after I've done all my other betting, they're so slow to move the number. And I do have a personal vendetta against them as well. So, as a lot of people do this particular sports book, so I kind of, even though I know it's low money or small money, I get a satisfaction of beating this particular book. So I've ran really well too. I've ran above expectation as well. So
Well, that's usually a common feature of back-off stories that you had a good run there. How did you come up with the name Consultant AP?
Well, because AP consultant was taken. I was creating a Twitter a little over a year ago now, probably about a year and 2 or 3 months ago. I was creating a Twitter to get involved in the Twitter world, specifically because of a class that I was going to be involved in with RxGamble, a past speaker on this show, and a lot of people your listeners will be familiar with. And so anyways, I was going to did end up doing a class with her, and I was trying to create a Twitter to get a Twitter presence, and I came up with in my head AP Consultant, try to create that, and apparently that username was taken, so I flipped it around and did Consultant AP, and that one was available, and I've just kind of ran with that.
Now, how did you meet up with RxGamble? How did that come about?
Yeah, that's probably one of the more interesting stories of meeting Advantage players in my career. You know, most of the Advantage players that I've met in my career were all from that original person we spoke about earlier that I knew from poker. As I said, it turned out he ended up being a lot more than a card counter. He got involved in advanced AP things, and as he got involved with more people, he introduced me to people, and that's kind of how my network grew. However, RxGamble was not a part of that. I knew who RxGamble was because I worked in the casinos, and obviously
you had seen flyers. You had seen flyers on her, or had she actually played in the place you were working?
Both. Yeah, both. I mean, I had seen tons of flyers of her. I had seen her in a particular joint that I had worked at.
Oh, so now let me ask you that. When somebody that you recognize shows up in the casino you're working, either you recognize them from flyers or whatever. So what happens? Like when that happens in the surveillance room, what do? What goes on?
It really depends on the property. You know, some properties, their procedure is to, which this is actually less common these days, but their procedure is, you know, if someone's a known AP, whether it be, you know, the databases or flyers or whatnot, you know, they decide to just back them off at that point. The most casinos in Las Vegas these days, however, choose to evaluate the player first. You know, maybe the smarter casinos, which there's fewer of those, but the smarter casinos, you know, may even follow the AP around to have that AP lead them to their weaknesses. But generally speaking, a casino is either going to just decide to, at that point, you know, if they recognize someone, they're either just going to decide to choose not to do business with that person anymore, whether that mean they get backed off, or obviously some properties out here trespass, 86. But I think the sharper casinos, the smarter casinos, they choose to evaluate the play and see if it's play they want or not.
So you would follow them around to see what games they were interested in, and also if they talk to who they may talk to in the casino?
Correct. Yeah, that's.
What about, did you ever like zoom in and read their texts?
I have done that. Yeah. What I'll say about that is, you know, it's a good question you brought up, because a lot of APs are in fear of this, of someone reading their text or whatever. How I'll answer that is, if a casino is reading your text, you're already done anyhow. So, I mean, if they're already that interested in you that they're reading your text, then you've been made already anyways. I mean, they may not know what your name is, but they know what you're doing, or they at least have
They know they don't want you.
Exactly right. Yeah. That's a better way to put it. They may not know exactly what you're doing, especially if it's something more advanced. They may not know exactly what you're doing, but they know they don't want you. So I always, tell people to not really. I mean, you always take precautions, of course. You can angle your cell phone different ways, or
Sure.
or
So,
try to cover your cell phone. But I all I can tell you is if someone's zooming in on your phone, that's not random. So that's
right.
you've been made already. So
So when you recognize the person, who do you call? The shift manager? Do you call security? Who do you call now from surveillance?
Yeah, again, that's just like a property by property basis. I mean, most properties, when it comes to table games players, surveillance is going to call, the casino shift manager, and then the casino shift manager, makes the decision whether or not they're going to, what they're going to do with the player, right? Because technically, surveillance is not supposed to surveillance doesn't make decisions. They're just they're a part of the operation. They're kind of a consultant in a way, I guess, if you want to look at it like that. They make recommendations or suggestions, but they're not. At most places, surveillance is not making the final call whether someone gets backed off or not. So they just provide that information to the casino shift manager, and then the casino shift manager does with that information what they decide. Some places, when surveillance calls, they're going to go back off no matter what. Other places, the casino shift manager might want to come see it for themselves, whether that be up in surveillance or down on the floor. Just, depends on the casino.
Right. So let's get back to RxGamble. So you knew who she was from numerous flyers and had seen her
Right.
play yeah. So then what happened?
Actually, let's make this a cliffhanger because RxGamble is going to take a while. We're going to take a short break for some commercials, and then we're going to get back to Consultant 8B, and I promise you we're going to ask about RxGamble. The South Point has more than 10,000 games, returning more than 99%. This is more than anyone else has. In December, the promotion of the month is half price almost everything, using your points, from December 14th to the 24th. This is a slow time in Vegas. After the rodeo, which I don't know for sure if the rodeo is happening, but that's about when it usually ends, and until Christmas Eve. So this includes half price at restaurants, bars, movies, gift shops, spa and salon, and bingo. Full details at the club. You don't have to have earned the points in December. Just have them uncashed and you can use them. On Christmas Day, there's a $32,000 hot seat promotion where $100 in free play goes to a player every 3 minutes starting at 8 a.m. There will be no video poker class semester starting in January or February of next year due to COVID concerns. We're hopeful we'll be able to start another class in September 2021. At predicted.org, there's a market where you can place small bets on the occurrence of various political events, mostly but not entirely in the United States. There's current markets have to do with who's going to be in the cabinet and what the final electoral college vote would be and various other things. Certainly most of the events on the election are over, although as we're taping this, which is 2 weeks after the election, there's still some having Biden win it is like 86%, and Trump winning it is about 14%, which is numbers I would not expect given the fact that I thought Biden was the president-elect. Listeners can receive a one-time offer of a deposit match up to $20 at predicted.org/promo/edge. Must play the money through once. Cannot withdraw it for 30 days. At videopoker.com is the best place to play lots of games. If you sign up for the gold membership, $8.95 a month or $79.95 a year, this allows you to get correction on most of the games. Game of the week is Hot Roll Poker. This is 10 coins per line, where 1 time in 6 you get a multiplier. The value of the multiplier is determined by rolling a pair of virtual dice. If the dice roll a 2 and a 5, for example, you'd receive 7x for the hand. The multiplier comes on the deal, sometimes on the draw, not both. There are no strategy variations for this game compared to the base game, and the hot roll feature is even money, meaning the dice roll adds no EV, but it does add variance. All right, we're back talking with consultant AP about what kind of class he taught with RxGamble.
Well, first we were talking about how he first met her and got involved with her.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how did you first meet RxGamble?
Yeah, I don't think she'll mind me sharing the story. I probably should have ran it by her before the show, but I don't think she'll mind. But anyways, about 10 years ago, I was at a local poker room. Actually, I wasn't playing. I was at the casino, whatever, and I stopped by the poker room, and I saw RX playing poker, and her game had, just 2 or 3 other players at the time, and it looked like to me the game was breaking, stopping. No one was actually playing a hand. I think RX was sitting over there on her phone, probably tweeting away or texting or whatever. And so a lot of my at the time I worked in the casinos, so a lot of my casino colleagues laughed at me or whatever, but I went up and introduced myself to her. Of course, once I told her like what I did, she was completely freaked out. She's freaked out. I was gonna take her picture and send it to every database and flyer in the world or whatever. But I told her, I said, look, I really want I said, if you don't mind, I said, I really want to take a picture of you and I. And I said, I'm not going to distribute it to anyone. I said, I'll show a couple of my buddies at work just because they're not going to believe this. And so she actually did. She let me take a picture with her. I did not send her picture out anywhere. And that's kind of how we, it's funny, I can't remember what platform we exchanged some type of information. I don't believe it was like phone numbers. It was either like, I don't know, I wasn't using Twitter back then, so I'm not sure. But we communicated through some app back then. I can't even remember which app it was, but we communicated, and then we ended up developing a professional relationship. And obviously we have each other's phone numbers in current time.
Is that when you first started consulting with APs from that relationship?
No, my consulting with APs began with my friend from poker that I mentioned earlier.
And so how did that work? Can you, because I don't quite understand what that was.
Right. So it's basically what it was is it's just a more in-depth conversation or analysis of a question you asked earlier, which is like, what did I learn from surveillance that helped me in my AP career? Obviously, that's a really beneficial topic to an AP. So obviously, I can go way more in depth with them about, earlier I just gave the example like of, your identity, which to me is something obvious, like dressing, outlandishly or whatever, wigs, too much makeup, whatever, but costumes. But I can go way more in depth with them on how I would attack a casino, or now how I do attack a casino. And some of that is based on what I learned working for casinos. So that's how that works. Also, I want to make it very clear to all the listeners, whether you're in the industry or you're an AP or just a casual listener, I never crossed the line as far as consulting with someone about like a place I worked at. I just would never, or that I was currently working at. I would just, I do have integrity, and I would never cross the line when it comes to, so for example, if I'm working at Casino A currently, I'm not going to consult an AP on like how to beat Casino A. I'm just not going to do that. Like,
could you,
nor have I ever done that. So.
Yeah. Could you give an example of like, of one of your consulting, I don't know, jobs? Like, these guys came and wanted to attack this particular casino, and I consulted. And I mean, do you have any examples like that?
I do, yeah. I mean, of course, I have several. I'll give a story. I'll tell a story where, and it was my friend from poker, and at that time, I believe at the time he was still just a card counter, if I remember right. But the angle he was going to take in this particular casino was card counting. However, he wasn't going to do like ABC card counting, right? Where like, where if it gets to this exact, count, I'm going to bet this or whatever. He was going to mix in a little cover play, or, whatever you want to call that. So basically play the game like at a lower edge, but try to get longevity out of it at a particular casino. And he asked me, my opinion on that. Right. And so I, through my network, through just having, knowledge or whatever, this particular casino, I knew their skill level. I knew their maybe what kind of action they could handle per se. And so I was able to consult him with a strategy. Like I said, he was already going to attack this place, and he already had like maybe a bet spread or, bet amounts in mind. But I was able to consult him or give him information, in my professional opinion, to bet, X to Z, and, stay within that range, and, do, the length of the sessions and things like that. Right. And so, all the factors that come, your average bet, time played, all that stuff. And this client ended up, at the end of the day, I think most card counters, I think all card counters, if they're realistic, they know they're going to get backed off at some point. Like, it's very rare that you just get to, I know some of these opportunities do exist, but it's very rare that you're just going to get to like count cards at a place forever, right? Like, that's just not going to happen realistically. There's a few places out there that, whatever, if you do it the right way, you might be able to, but generally speaking, you're not going to be able to just sit in a place for 40 hours a week and count cards and never get backed off. So obviously, he's trying to get as much longevity as possible. So anyhow, long story short, because of the recommendations that I made, which differed from what he was going to bet originally, he ended up getting way more longevity there than thought possible. When they backed him off, they didn't even actually know that he was counting cards. They basically backed him off as an unprofitable player. And he had, it was over like a couple months span. He wasn't living in the place by any means. He wasn't in there like 40 hours a week or anything like that, but it was over a couple months span, and he ran like way above expectation too. But he ended up taking over $80,000 out of that particular casino. Whereas if he would have went in with his strategy without talking to me, he would have been backed off the first weekend. And, I don't know how much he would have been winning or losing at that time, but obviously he wouldn't have gotten longevity EV play that he ended up getting.
So let's go back to RxGamble, and we've been talking about this weekend seminar that she had, and you were the co-host, co-instructor?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what my official title was, but I definitely feel, I think the students did too, but I feel like I was the co-instructor. So I mean, RX definitely was the main speaker, and rightfully so. And she probably talked 75% of the time, and I talked maybe 25% of the time. But yeah, co-host of the class.
So I actually saw RxGamble a few months after that class, and at that time she said she probably wasn't going to do it again. As far as you know, is that still her stance? Is that still your stance?
Well, it's definitely not my stance. And there's a lot of factors why it's not my stance. I mean, I think some of the biggest fears were, an overflooding of the market or whatnot. And I don't think that occurred. Actually, I know it didn't occur. From our class, our class is very small, and, our class is very small. And although I can't attest for what each individual is currently doing with their life, or if they're in the AP world, I am pretty well connected still throughout the U.S. And I'm not seeing those people. I'm not hearing about those people in AP circles. I'm not seeing those people pop up on, flyers or whatever. So, yeah. So so to answer your question, yes, I'm totally open to doing another class. I want to do another class. I actually just kind of quote unquote jokingly mentioned it to RX maybe a month ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. I can't remember, but I mentioned it to her, and she didn't say yes or no. I think she's probably still on her original stance she told you. However, she did tell me she has had quite the interest. I believe she said 20. She's had at least 20 inquiries from people over the last, year, kind of how like serious inquiries about, about another class. So I can't answer if there'll be one, and if it's up to me, there will be a second class. But ultimately, as stated before, RX is a big part of the class, and a big attraction to the class, and we'll have to see. RX is a very creative person, so who knows? Who knows? What her future holds. So.
You mentioned that you're still very tied in around the country. It sounds like you meant with other APs. Are you still tied into the surveillance community? Are you still getting information on what's going on in surveillance?
So yeah, not as much as I was when I was in surveillance, but yes. Obviously, I'm super tied in with AP networks because of people I've consulted for, and then also people I've played with over the last 3 years. So I'm very, you guys know and listeners know, the AP world's really small, especially when you get into the HC world and the advanced play world. It gets even smaller. So it's, pretty much everyone knows everyone, even if you don't personally know them, you know of them, or you've seen them out on the road or whatever.
1 degree of separation. Sure.
Right. So, I'm pretty in tune on that aspect as far as who's out there, quote unquote, crushing it. If someone's out there grinding games and, winning a couple hundred a week or something, obviously I, don't know about that, but, which, more power to them if they are, that's awesome. But, nothing against that. But Yeah, so I'm really in tune with the AP world, obviously, and then I still, I can't go into too much detail into it, but I still am able to, I don't know if extract's the right word, but I'm still able to extract some information from the casino world as well. So.
What about so in Las Vegas, I'm sure people would like to know, do you know which casinos are flyer happy? Like where you're in the biggest danger of getting flyered in Las Vegas?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that stuff actually like changes over time, right? Like,
Sure. Yeah.
Because I still hear people talk about, Casino A or Casino B or whatever, and it's like, yeah, it was like that 10 years ago, but it's not like that now. I mean, yeah, I definitely know, and I don't think it's a big secret, like in the AP world as well. I mean, if anyone that reads like forums or, whatever, I mean, all that information's out there, but I mean, I'll mention like a specific casino where like, I mean, again, this is not a shocker to anyone, but like, I mean, if you're counting cards and you go into Treasure Island, like you're just asking to, I mean, not only are you going to get backed off, I mean, with like no longevity at all, but not only are you going to get backed off, but I mean, you're going to get flyered like everywhere. So, but that, I mean, I think most people in the community are aware of that, but I will say, obviously there's two real big players on the Las Vegas Strip. People can figure out who those are, the ones that own multiple casinos on the Las Vegas Strip. I will say they're more like in-house, so if you, so like say they own like 10 properties on the Strip or in Vegas, whatever. I mean, your information is going to get sent out to those 10 properties, but it's probably
not to the competition.
Right. So, and it's really, it's not about competition per se. It's more just like the legalities of it and stuff like that. So, of people's information, right? So,
sure.
I would, obviously, like if you get backed off at a chain where they have multiple casinos, more than likely, they're going to share that information with their sister properties. That's just, so.
When you were in the surveillance room, did you spend any time just looking around for advantage players, or are you too busy doing other stuff to have time for that?
Yeah, I mean, that's just all so situational, right? I mean, it depends on, there's so many factors that depend on that. I mean, I've been part of what I call proactive surveillance teams where a lot of those time fillers that you mentioned are eliminated from surveillance's obligations or responsibilities, and surveillance actually can be proactive and go out and hunt the casino. And I mean, that's not specifically just for advantage play, but they can go out and really be proactive. And then I've been a part of, or I know, properties that are super reactive, which means, they're going to react to big wins, or they're going to, there's going to be certain triggers that they react to. And then I would actually put a third category out there that I say made up myself. Like, I'm not trying to take credit for it per se. Just, it's a word I made up. Maybe someone else says this too, but I do think there's a reactive proactive surveillance. And what basically it's just a combination of the two. That's more like, reactive proactive surveillance to me is more like you're constantly busy doing busy work, so like audits or whatever that may be, but through that busy work you may proactively find something that already occurred. So to me, that's proactively reactively. So, I think that's the three categories I would put it in. So
if our listeners wanted to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
Yeah, I would say the best way right now is just through Twitter. My handle is @consultantap, common spelling on consultant, and then A is in Adam, P is in Peter, or advantage player. So @consultantap. My DMs are open. I haven't like tried to promote myself on there a lot or whatnot. I mean, I did a little bit during the class, not myself, but before the class, I was retweeting a lot of RX's tweets for the class. And so I got some followers. I think I'm up to like maybe 400 followers now. So not a major following per se, but it's definitely all, most of the people that follow me are, in the gambling community of some aspects. So.
What about the Blackjack Discord? Are you on there?
I actually am on Blackjack Discord, but I'll be honest, I have not been. I'm just so busy between sports betting and then a current play that I'm doing in Las Vegas that's worth $200 an hour on a table game. That's not card counting. I'm just so busy with those two things. I have not been active on it at all. I mean, I got on it a little bit during the pandemic, the very beginning of the pandemic, I believe. I got on a little bit and maybe communicated a little, very little, but I'm a member of it, but I haven't put a lot of effort into it. So.
Under the same name, Consultant AP?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm also on BJ21 as Consultant AP. Again, same thing with that forum. I have a few posts on there, but nothing earth shattering. And I haven't spent a lot of time on it recently.
Now, Ted Whiting is the corporate vice president of surveillance at MGM Properties. What do you know about his mom?
Well, she just joined Twitter.
Yeah. I would say that's the only thing I know about his mom is I guess allegedly she just joined Twitter. But I saw that Twitter account just pop up. I'd really like to.
She had zero followers when I saw that name. She had 0 followers. I think I was her very first follow. So. Oh
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was right up there. I was pretty early into the game too. I don't remember the exact number, but someone had either liked, on my Twitter, someone had either liked or retweeted one of her posts, and I clicked on the account, and I want to say it was like 30 followers at the time or something like that, and it looked. Oh, I remembered the account had only been open for like literally 24 hours because I went and looked at all their posts, and the last post was like, or the first post was like 24 hours ago. So, but yeah, I followed and been enjoying reading the tweets. I mean, I think there's like an 85% chance I have to know who this is, even if I don't personally know them. Like, but I haven't been able to put my finger on it yet.
They have to be an AP that's knowledgeable enough to know who Ted Whiting is, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big aspect right there. But just some of the stuff they've tweeted, I mean, they're obviously like on the sharper side of advanced plays and stuff like that. So, and again, that community is just so small. So I mean, if I don't personally know them, I have to know of them. But yeah, they got me stumped right now. I don't know who Ted's mom is right now.
And I would say that there's a good chance that they're a listener of the show. So I would think, or I would recommend that Ted Whiting's mom show up on the Discord.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance Ted Whiting's mom probably knows who I am too. I would assume so.
So you think maybe Ted Whiting's mom didn't actually give birth to Ted Whiting? Just a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's 99.999 that she did not give birth to Ted Whiting. So.
Very good. So, Consultant AB, thank you for coming on and sharing your experience with us. At the end of our shows, we have a recommended section. So, Richard, do you have something for our listeners today?
Yeah, I'm going to recommend a Thai restaurant called Thai Kitchen. It's on Sunset, in between Mountain Vista and Green Valley Ranch Road. And it's kind of hidden away, but it's kind of our go-to Thai place to go pick food up, because I'm still not eating in restaurants, but we're picking food up. So, yeah, anyway, it's quite good.
Very good. And Consultant AP, do you have a recommended for our listeners?
I do, and I just want to say thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it, guys.
You're welcome.
But I'll give a shout out to one of your sponsors as well. Right across, I think this is a hidden gem in Las Vegas, but right across the street from South Point. Your listeners may have heard of that place before.
I hope so.
But right across the street from South Point is a place called Boulevard Bar and Grille. And I know from the street it probably just looks like your average corner bar or local bar or whatever. But it's run by an Italian family from the East Coast, and the food is amazing there. I've taken so many people there, or brought people food from there, and everyone loves it, especially their pizza. They make a really good East Coast style pizza. Everyone loves their pizza. If you order in advance, 24 hours in advance, you can get a sheet pizza. That's really good for parties, or if you're having a bunch of APs over at your house, or if you're just watching a game or whatever, in non-COVID times, I guess. The food's just amazing there. Good people. I know a lot of customers of South Point accidentally find it just because they're looking for a lot of people that come in town for the rodeo and stuff like that. They're looking for something different or whatever, and they end up over there. They all love it. So definitely recommended. And the owner's always in there. The owner, his name's Fiore, Italian gentleman. He's always going around, asking everyone how they're doing, how's their meal. I mean, it's a good spot. So
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Richard. Go out and hit lots of royal flushes, everybody. Good day.